why make money for the sake of making money? Why survive just for the sake of survival? Like, people want something higher. And it feels as if we're, or at least I feel this way, that there's a lot of like stagnation. We're stagnant. And there's just not a lot of like really good prospects for us right now. And I've really felt that way as I was going through the medical system. This is our fight. This is our struggle. It's our illness, our lives. We should be at the forefront. All right, it is time for the fourth video in our starting lineup. I'm back in the closet. It's a brand new day. You may have guessed that the previous 3 videos were recorded in the same day. I was just simply changing my outfits and slightly adjusting the contents of the closet. But yeah, that's besides the point. Today, we're going to be talking about a problem that I think is plaguing not just people with schizophrenia, but people in general. I think it is a major reason why people are dealing with such burnout, why people are feeling unfulfilled, and everyone, to some extent, is just kind of miserable. I think it comes down to, again, there are various reasons. This is just one big reason all this is happening. I think it comes down to there not being a future to work towards. There not being a higher purpose, if you will, a national mission, something to aspire to. And that national mission bit might make me sound like a bit of a nationalist, or like I'm on the far right or something. That's not my intent there. What I mean by that is just there's no sort of drive, no thing that we're working towards. It's as if we're, or at least it's sometimes I think portrayed, people kind of want you to think that we are like at the end of history. Like we were at the pinnacle, the peak. It doesn't get better than this, and yet so many of us, I think most of us actually, are quite miserable, and we've got shit lives. And we've seen that even people who achieve the American dream aren't happy and really aren't even satisfied in a lot of cases. You know, despite the fact that they have, a big house, a good job, big truck, multiple cars even, 3 kids, grandkids perhaps, in some cases, and maybe they've got a college degree. They've done all the things that you're supposed to do. They've gone through all the steps in life, and yet they're still unhappy. And so I think people like around my age, and even in other age groups, are realizing that, like, hey, wait a minute, I'm working all these hours, I'm at a job that maybe pays decently, but I don't get much fulfillment out of. But hey, I'm putting in the work, I work hard, I work a lot of hours, and yet I'm unhappy. My coworkers are unhappy, a lot of my friends are unhappy, I've got family that are unhappy, and even people who are doing better than me, and again, maybe people who have reached that American dream, are unhappy. So you sit there and you think, well, what the fuck am I doing this for? What do I have to live for? What do I have to work for? That's the thing. It's as if you're supposed to just like put a big smile on your face and go in there and work hard, especially, which is a big ask even just for people with schizophrenia in a lot of cases. You know, it's a very debilitating illness, but you're supposed to do that and just be glad. I don't know. Take your paycheck and then enjoy your martini, I guess. I don't know, as you sit in a lounge chair in your just grass yard in your cookie cutter house and your cookie cutter lawn. I don't know. That's one example. So it's kind of fascinating to me. It's as if people are under the impression, and I'm sure this is probably deliberate, not even just a coincidence, you know, businesses or people, our leaders of our country just think like, oh, this is enough. There doesn't need to be a real mission. And sure, people, like companies will have like, oh, here's our mission or whatever, but it's not a real mission. It's just like set dressing. It's completely arbitrary. It's not a true thing. The real mission is just make money. And I think that's what a lot of our society just boils down to. I'm not that that's like a very profound or like uncommon take that like, oh, it's all just fueled by money and greed. But then when you're caught in that, you think, what's the point of, just what's the point? Like, why make money for the sake of making money? Why survive just for the sake of survival? Like, people want something higher. And I think even people who, I'm not of the belief that there is a God or anything, but I think even people who believe in God often feel that way too, because they think, like my grandparents' church is kind of like this, where, or I should say their denomination rather, is essentially, what do? All you gotta do is believe and go to church and you'll get to heaven. And I mean, sure, that sounds great to people, but then they sit and wonder, well, really, then I've achieved these things. What else really is there now? And what's the point of anything anymore? I think people just are yearning for something greater, and we need like just some sort of in general. I'll get more specific to schizophrenia, but like a national project. I almost think that, like, while it was contentious, the like infrastructure bill, like the Green New Deal and stuff, that was like kind of in the right direction. Because not to say, again, I know obviously there's a lot of people who didn't like that, but you get the idea of what I'm saying, right? There's something that we can aspire to, something to work towards. It just feels as if we're existing for the sake of existing. We're working for the sake of working. There's nothing greater. There's no real meaning to our lives. And sure, you can try and make your own meaning, but I think people do just want something to work towards, something isn't maybe not entirely tangible, but just a real dream that's worth fighting for, I guess. Not just a hollow dream like the American dream. And real goals that are achievable. I think that would actually go a long way, and that would kind of help with, people in general, but also people with schizophrenia deal with, just shit life syndrome. I think a lot of our problems, speaking as someone with schizophrenia, at least in my experience, is not just the illness itself, but just the fact that we have shit lives. I know that's not like necessarily a real medical term, but it is something that's been coined and I've seen more and more of. And there's obviously a lot of reasons for that, right? Like, if you're in like poverty, or you're lonely, like you can't find a partner, or all sorts of different things can contribute to feeling that way. And I do think that sense of purpose really plays a big role, and that's something a lot of people are lacking. And even I find lots of like goals and higher things to set for myself, but even I at times find myself like wishing that there was just something bigger than myself that I could work towards. And I think maybe that's part of the reason why I've started this channel. I mean, technically, as I'm talking, it doesn't actually exist because I'm recording all the videos beforehand. And so, specific to schizophrenia, I want to try and conjure some things that we can work towards that will, one, make our lives better, and are also, some maybe are a bit more abstract, but are kind of more tangible, and give it an idea of, okay, even if it doesn't necessarily play out this way, like, what is the destination, and what will life look like afterwards? Just things to hope for, whether they actually pan out that way or not, and things, to put our minds to work towards, because I think we are kind of, our demographic is just very idle in a sense. There's, for as much research and progress that has been made, there is a real lack of knowledge. I mean, we don't have a cure. Even some of the treatments, we don't necessarily understand why they work in some cases, like ECT. the antipsychotics still have a long way to go. I mean, they help quite a lot of people, but the burdens of like the side effects can be very intense. I've experienced that myself, and they don't always work. That's also been my experience. That the 3 I've been on and the different doses have not helped me much. And also just like being able to afford them, and having opportunities in life and having more autonomy, and there's a lot of different things we're dealing with, and it feels as if or at least I feel this way, that there's a lot of like stagnation. We're stagnant, and there's just not a lot of like really good prospects for us right now. And I've really felt that way as I was going through the medical system. I mean, technically I still am, but I fell through the cracks for a while, and in a way I kind of felt relieved during that period, just because it felt like I was just kind of being led along, you know, like they had a little piece of, I don't know why I went with candy, like a piece of candy on a like a fishing rod, and they're just reeling it in every time I get close, and they're just trying to lure me along just to keep me going and paying into the system and being in the system, but not really to my benefit for the most part, because I haven't really gotten much out of it. And that's not to say that others don't or wouldn't, but it's like I'm being strung along for no real purpose. I haven't really gotten anything from it. I've just, other than, I mean, they've gotten richer. I've dumped a lot of money into it, but yeah, so I think in this video, I'm going to keep it more, because a lot of these things I'm going to talk about, I think, can be their own videos. And I may not necessarily have because I do these unscripted, a specific outline of goals at this moment. But I may put one in like a community post or something. But I can at least say some examples of the types of things I want to cover in this channel going forward. It's going to be a wide variety of things. I think some things that you haven't really seen or tend to see on other channels that discuss schizophrenia, even those run by people who have it or you just experience psychosis. I think there's going to be, for one, and I'm a bit of a nerd, so these appeal to me, logistical type videos, such as how we could make open source antipsychotics a thing, which would greatly reduce the cost of those medications for us, and could make them much more accessible, and also get them out of the hands of big pharma. And now that I've said that, they're probably going to like drop a tactical nuke on me or something, but and that might sound like a absurd, like there's no way that's achievable, but I've actually put quite a lot of thought into it. And I mean, there's a similar thing that's already being done, which is the Open Insulin Project. You might want to look into that. It's kind of, I have ideas similar to that. And so some of the videos like on that, for example, would be like more conceptual. There's gonna be plenty of like conceptual videos on this channel, but then more that get into like the real like nitty gritty of, okay, well, what would these things cost, and like how would we go about achieving this thing, and time frames, you know, the numbers and things like that. And not just in the sense of like statistics, although there will be at least one stats video, and probably more as new information comes out. I'm thinking more general statistics involving schizophrenia, but also just maybe the need for greater transparency with psychiatric institutions, and maybe some like cost-oriented videos, things like that, just number-based videos, let's say. And I was thinking soon, it might even be I might change it to where it's in the starting 5. I was thinking one just on being able to budget, because a lot of people with schizophrenia belong to low income groups, and I myself know what that is like when it comes to my own income. And while there's only so much you can really do in those situations, I like to try and, you know, help people be as, I guess, autonomous as they can be, and make the most of what they've got, right? So I'm thinking one maybe about how kind of like strategies or ideas, tips perhaps on how to budget for different things, you know, like grocery shopping and whatnot. Other than that, I think too, there's going to be plenty of like policy-oriented, I keep hitting the policy-oriented videos, you know, on legislation, what's going on right now in that regard, and my, I guess, takes or like analysis on certain bits of legislation. I actually have one from an org, like their policy stance and what they're pushing for with respect to schizophrenia, one of their positions, that is. And I think I'll probably make a video on that soon, because it really irked me. I might even just make a whole video on orgs in general too. I'm not a big fan of them. I mean, they obviously do good, but they have a tendency to, like, they'll have some pretty good, like, palatable positions, and then they just go off the rails with something and that is just very harmful, or would be very harmful, and to, like, no benefit really, except maybe to them or, you know, the people who give them money. Yeah, and the fact that they have a way of, I think especially when it comes to schizophrenia, sort of hijacking the movement, right? And the thing is, this is our fight, this is our struggle, it's our illness, our lives. We should be at the forefront of that battle, and it should be about what we want. Not to say that we're like a monolith, and you know, people with schizophrenia have very different experiences, but I still think, you know, we've got to be at the head of our own struggle, and we can't let nonprofits fight our battles for us, especially since, even though nonprofit is in the name, they are businesses. Money comes first. It's about the money more than anything, and that even goes for orgs that are run by people with schizophrenia or who experience psychosis. Like, it's business first with them. So, you know, don't get it twisted that they are, or that they always have your best interest at heart, and that they aren't plagued with their own biases, let's say, you know, that they aren't in any ways ignorant on some things, and that they will be like, that it's best to have them sort of take care of everything for you. And I know it can be very hard to be involved, especially like in regards to stuff like policy or like political stuff, things that can be very complicated, like legal things. It's with a debilitating illness like schizophrenia. I'm understanding of that, and I struggle a lot myself. But I think it is, just do what you can, I guess is what I'm saying, and don't always trust that, you know, other people who don't have this illness, and in some cases even those who do, are always going to do what's best, and will always have your best interest at heart. Particularly, you know, if they must adhere to like a board of directors, and you know, they are a representative of a company. Anyway, that was a whole like side tangent, but I'll probably make a full video perhaps on that. So what have I listed here? Like more logistical stuff, statistics, practical things like budgeting, policy, like legislation, and I think there'll be videos about my own experience with the illness, but there's already so many of those that that's probably not going to be like a big part of the channel. That would probably be mostly things that sort of work their way into the other types of videos, you know, probably won't be the main focus. Or I may drop one video that just kind of tells like my story, like the things I mostly struggle with. Just maybe it's a way for you all to get to know me better. I feel like I am missing a thing or two. That's kind of what happens when you do these unscripted. Apologies again that I don't look at the camera a ton. It's very difficult for me to think and speak and also just keep my eyes fixed on the camera. Now, I would like to outline some specific goals. But what I think I might do, since we're already approaching like 20 minutes, is perhaps leave a more detailed one in either the description of this video or, like I was saying, like a community post. But I think in general what we should go for is that idea for open source antipsychotics. I think we need to push away from involuntary commitment. And again, I may get more detailed on my reasonings for these things and how we would go about this and whatnot, and maybe even just a separate video entirely or a post. So this is just me outlining, just here are the points. If you're looking for an explanation, it should come, but just have a little faith in me on this one, if you can. I know, like, me a lot to ask. So, okay, open source antipsychotics. Moving away from involuntary commitment and using other treatment options, as, like, for example, the World Health Organization recommends. That can range from, like, facilitated assisted living to just more like patient involved treatment methods, and like the more typical stuff like taking like antipsychotic medications. I'll probably include that whole list actually from the World Health Organization so you can see all the different suggestions they have, because I can't always remember all of them off the top of my head, even though I once had them memorized. So that's another thing. I think too, obviously destigmatizing this illness is important, but I think there's already a lot of efforts in that regard, and hopefully this channel will improve that as well. So destigmatization would be the third thing. I think also we need to create opportunities for each other and try to push for there to be more opportunities for people with schizophrenia, and I think destigmatizing will help in that respect. And I think also the open source antipsychotics things, because if we have easier access and they are more affordable, then people will have more money in addition to doing better with the illness, and then that I think can also lead to them being more able to engage in different things and have more opportunities available to them, right? In the sense that they'll be more able to do things and will have more financial resources. And I think we need to shoot for, one, being in positions like being journalists, doctors, lawyers, I mentioned that before, and even just making your own media. There's so many terrible depictions of us that fuels ignorance and fear-mongering and hate-mongering from like films and even like literature and television. And they're not always the most like negative things. Like A Beautiful Mind is like, there's a lot of inaccuracies in that, but like it does still lead to some things like the romanticization, I think, of schizophrenia and mental illness in general, and also the misconception that we're all like geniuses or something. So I think we need more just home brewed, for lack of a better term, like just schizophrenic media, media about schizophrenia that we ourselves have made, and that also goes for like news media. So that's another side of it. And then of course we need to, I think, be more involved in, because we're a small demographic, we have to be active and pushing the line forward, not just holding the line in terms of our rights. We have to be more involved in, I think, advocating for ourselves and not just protecting our rights, but becoming more, becoming equal with others. And I think too, I've mentioned the right to bear arms. I think that is an important element as well. I would like to see more people with schizophrenia be responsible gun owners and better able to protect themselves and show that they can handle such a great responsibility. Maybe I'll do another like gun-oriented video. Maybe I'll even kind of show off my own my little 25. But again, I don't think I'm going to do any sort of instructional, like, hey, here's what you do when you're learning to handle and like shoot a gun and stuff, because I want that to come from, people whose job that is, the actual like professionals, not just me, a random guy on YouTube. Well, I think that's quite a bit that I've listed out there already, that I want to achieve. And I think that stuff I was saying too about not letting organizations be at the like absolute forefront of this and sort of taking the movement for themselves. In particular, like I guess another reason why I think that's not a good thing is because they tend to be more, again, because they're businesses at the end of the day, they tend to be more passive, and also it's not like often, unless they have schizophrenia or something, they're not going to be the victims of like bad legislation or the fallout from certain decisions, right? And the things they push for. And even if they are, in some cases, it's like, well, they're probably pretty wealthy or well-connected, so they're probably not going, even if they were to suffer in some way, not to the extent that the rest of us will. So, and like I said, we do live in a country that's fueled by money and greed, so don't think that just because someone has the same illness as you, that they won't, like, run with the money, and that money isn't their top priority. They are not your friend, and in some cases, they're truly not even your ally. Just use them as best you can, like in a more practical sense, like, you know, that they can do good, but don't rely on them entirely. Don't trust that they're always going to do what's best, or that they always know what's right, and that they don't have their own biases or ignorance. And you know, again, this is our struggle, it's our illness, our lives, so we need to be at the center of it, even if, you know, like I mentioned in my media video, the news media tries to cut us out of that, or that, you know, these organizations try to portray it as if we can't, like, speak for ourselves or fight for ourselves or have any really autonomy. Okay, I've ranted quite a bit. This is like 26 minutes right now. I think I've probably said enough about the things that I want and what I'm going to be making content around on this channel. Hopefully this video was helpful in some way, and I would say enjoyable. I'm not really sure how you would garner enjoyment from this, but hopefully, if that it's possible, you did enjoy it. Alright, well, this will probably be the last of the 5 videos, and then I will upload another one relatively soon after. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.